Okay, this is a nice little quick topic. So this is called reciprocals. Okay, now reciprocals is just a mathematical word that you need to remember, and it means that you just divide 1 by whatever number you start with, okay? So you've just got to remember this. I have added this as well. Reciprocal also means it's got a power of -1. So if you've done laws of indices, the harder ones with fractions and negatives, you'll know what I mean by this. Okay, so if we start with the first one, we're starting with the number 3. So if we're following the rule, all we do is 1 divided by the number that we're starting with. So we're going to do 1 divided by 3. Now you can write it as a decimal, but some of the decimals aren't particularly nice. Like I wouldn't say this is nice because it's obviously going to be a recurring. So it's going to be 0.3 recurring. So you are allowed to leave it as a fraction unless they say not to, which they never do. So, okay, next one, same idea. We do 1 divided by the number. So it's going to be 1/5. Okay, this one is actually okay as a decimal, 0.2. Okay, next one, again, same thing, 1 divided by our answer. So it'd be 1/10. Or you could have written 0.1. Okay, so the next ones are a little bit harder, but we can still do it the same way. It's just we can manipulate it afterwards to make it a little bit easier. So again, this is just going to be 1 divided by 0.4. Now looking at that, it doesn't look particularly nice because you don't normally see fractions with decimals in. So what I could do is I could times the top and the bottom both by a number, the same number, so that we get this to not be a decimal anymore. So the easiest number I could pick is 10. So if I multiply the fraction on the top and the bottom by 10, we get 10 divided by 4, and then we can simplify it afterwards. So I can divide them both by 2, which is 5/2, and if you want to write it as a decimal, it's 2.5. Okay? Next one, same idea. You do need to keep the negative as well. 1 divided by 3.5. You can times the top and the bottom by 2. So it would be 2 divided by -7. Okay, and that doesn't simplify any further. And I wouldn't write that as a decimal either because again, that's a recurring one. Okay, the next one's a little bit harder. So if we do it the same way, so it's 1 divided by 2/5. Now again, it's not nice to see a fraction in a fraction. So if I multiply both of them by 5, 1 is going to get rid of that decimal, get rid of that fraction. So if I times that by 5, remember you got to times the top by 5 as well. 1 times 5 is just 5. 2/5 times 5 will just give us 2. Okay, so again that's 2.5. If you look at the fraction rule what we started with and the reciprocal of it, it's the same fraction, it's just it's been flipped over. So if you want it an easier way, you can just flip the fractions. Now it does work for the rest of them as well. So for example, for a number on its own, like 3, is technically 3 divided by 1, because when you divide anything by 1, it's just that number. So again, if you flip that, you would get 1/3, and it works for all of them. Okay, so either method, you can use this method here, or you could make it as a fraction and then just flip it. But they're your choices.